I think a blowout is on the board.
No, that's not what you think.
I guaranteed a blowout.
Blowout, Coach.
Yes. Do you think a blowout is on the board?
Yeah, a blowout's definitely on the board. And as much as there's confidence in Jarrett Stidham, he hasn't played. So that's a problem. You don't know what he's going to be like, and it's a big moment. You can assume what he's going to be like. But I think if New England gets up early and it turns into they have to throw and he has to go win the game and they can unleash pass rushers, he's not great at getting away from pressure. So that's a problem. And when I watched a few games that he played, there's a significant amount of wide receiver screens, quick throws, as opposed to having to move the ball down the field in chunks, having to sit in the pocket a long time. And Trevor Lawrence had, 3 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. He lit him up. Jackson Dart, he had, I believe, 4 touchdowns as well. He kind of lit him up. So it's not like this defense hasn't been lit up at all during the course of the season, and Trevor did it in their place. So, yeah, I wouldn't guarantee it, but to say it's on the board, yeah, it's definitely on the board.
Yeah, and by the way, while you were talking, Coach, America saw Broncos plus 4.5 were part of Nick's picks, and they were like, I got to get in on that.
That's
so
true.
much so it is now Broncos plus 3.5. The line has moved a point in the last hour or so since we were on the air to where the Patriots are now only 3.5-point favorites. Now, still, road favorites in a conference championship game is incredibly rare.
Yeah, isn't that worth like 6? Doesn't no road team or home team get
2 and no, you get 2.5 for being at home. So it'd be a 5-point swing if we're in New England versus in Denver because you get it in both directions. But regardless, I do think a Patriots blowout is on the board.
Okay.
Because it is certainly in play that Stidham is awful.
Absolutely.
Like it's
You think it's in play or likely?
I don't think it's likely he's awful. I don't think that. I think that him being 29 years old and having been in the league for this long makes him a different type of backup quarterback. Go.
No, my only counter to that, and that doesn't make any sense to me, is after the Patriots played the Chargers, the discussion was Herbert was awful.
Yes.
Right.
And after the Patriots played the Texans, the discussion was C.J. Stroud was awful. So now I think
That's a good point.
Stidham is going to be, and remember, a few atoms in my heart are rooting for him, is going to be awful.
So I look at these as all very separate things. So Herbert, I felt, I'll try to be quick with it, went into that Patriot playoff game scarred from the last playoff game where he threw 4 picks. And somewhere in his conscious or subconscious was, I just can't turn the ball over. And because of that, I've then watched, to prepare to argue with Danny, all 22.
No, we are absolutely not heading down that particular path. Just stop. I'll likely need to isolate that into its own segment, because if we proceed, we'll end up spiraling into a whole other discussion. And it's just going to devolve into a tangled mess of irrelevant points. No, this is 24 hours before kickoff. Listen, I understand the perspective, but no. Let me be clear. I absolutely acknowledge that a lopsided victory is a distinct possibility here. Absolutely. This is a well-coached, high-caliber New England Patriots defense we're talking about, one that is fully capable of disrupting and overwhelming a backup quarterback. That, in itself, is a given. However, invoking the Houston game against Justin Herbert and C.J. Stroud as some kind of blueprint is where I completely disconnect. Justin Herbert was playing behind a decimated offensive line. It was, essentially, non-existent. He also isn't shouldering the psychological weight of past failures in the same way. That's precisely why that particular comparison immediately makes me shut it down. I'm not entertaining that line of reasoning right now. As for C.J. Stroud, he played objectively poorly. He did not have a good game. The conditions were also extreme, bitterly cold, a mix of rain and snow, players slipping all over the place. Yet, his struggles reached a point where there was genuine discussion about benching him due to his own errant decisions and throws. It wasn't solely the product of a defensive masterpiece by the opponent, it just wasn't. That's not an accurate account of how that game was decided. If that were the true narrative, then you'd have to equally argue that Drake May played poorly in his matchup, that he kept fumbling, and that it was a defensive showcase by the Texans as well, correct? So I'm simply not going to entertain that flawed parallel. Furthermore, from a purely offensive coaching standpoint, I am taking Sean Payton over both of the offensive coordinators for the Chargers and the Texans every single time. To suggest otherwise is, to me, a fool's errand. You can absolutely believe in the Patriots. You can have faith in their defense. You can be convinced they will suffocate Jared Stidham and so forth. That's perfectly valid. But using the Texans' offensive performance or the Chargers' offensive performance as a relevant reference point makes zero logical sense to me. If you insist on looking to the past for clues, a far more pertinent comparison would be this. The Broncos possess an elite defense. So do the Chargers. So do the Texans. What have we observed from Drake May and this Patriots offense when facing elite defenses in the postseason? That is actually where legitimate concerns should lie. And it's an area where analysts like mentioned analyst have focused much of their attention. Then you compound that with the youth of Drake May, now playing in his first road playoff game. It's an entirely different beast, compounded by the challenge of playing at altitude. You have a fierce defensive pass rush, which aligns perfectly with an issue May has grappled with, taking unnecessary sacks and fumbling. So, if you must use a past game as a reference, that's the more applicable framework. Therefore, I believe if this game does turn into a blowout, it will be because Jared Stidham proves to be genuinely not up to the task, that he simply isn't as capable as people are hoping he is. It would be a scenario the Patriots are perfectly positioned to exploit. But using the performance of a backup quarterback from the Jets or similar as a starting point for that argument, that holds no water for me. It just doesn't. I want to emphasize this strongly. I have tremendous belief in the Patriots. I have tremendous belief in Drake May. I feel the need to state this up front to preempt anyone who might accuse me of simply hating on the Patriots. Nothing I am expressing here constitutes hatred. I have given this team substantial credit. I've defended them against accusations that they haven't beaten any quality opponents, that their wins only came against inferior teams. I've argued that Drake May should be in the MVP conversation over Matthew Stafford. All that. My disagreement is not with the team's quality, but with some of the specific logic being deployed to analyze this matchup. I wholeheartedly, profoundly disagree with it. And that, to me, is what makes this contest so compelling and thrilling. It is a genuine enigma. A true, honest-to-goodness question mark. So here's the thing. As I mentioned, I've pushed back against the "who have you beaten" criticism. But the objective reality is that we have not seen this. Patriots defense truly have the opportunity to stage a defensive tour de force against a truly great offense and dismantle it. We haven't witnessed that this season because the opportunity hasn't really presented itself. The closest example might be the first game against the Bills, but we all acknowledge Buffalo's wild inconsistency. Still, I thought that was a strong performance, but you can't draw meaningful conclusions from games against the Saints, Titans, Falcons, Buccaneers, or Jets. The next closest might be the Bengals, but I believe that was with Joe Flacco at quarterback, right? Then perhaps the Ravens. The point is, using these past matchups as a definitive reference right now doesn't carry significant weight. Again, we could use their playoff run as a reference, but if you choose to do that, you must apply it to both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And if you do that, well, then the outlook isn't overwhelmingly positive from that angle either, which is what I'm getting at. Ultimately, I think games like this are truly a sit back, wait, and see situation. I've said this several times recently, and it warrants repeating. We are so fixated on making bold, definitive predictions before games, and I just believe it's perfectly acceptable to admit you don't know. Consider how we're even having this conversation. Patriots blowout is on the board. A lot of this stems from our need to generate discourse. This is what happens when only 4 teams remain. You're searching for new angles to keep the conversation alive over and over. Do I believe a blowout is possible? Absolutely, it's completely on the table. I think if the Patriots jump out to a lead, say 14-3, the game will feel effectively over. I find it difficult to envision Jared Stidham leading that offense on a sustained comeback against this defense. I just don't see it. Therefore, for me, this game hinges overwhelmingly on 2 things. The Broncos' defense setting an immediate tone, and Drake May, and the Patriots' offense establishing theirs. The pivotal questions are, Broncos' defense, what can you accomplish in this game? Drake May and this offense, what can you accomplish? Can you connect on explosive plays downfield? Are you disrupting May, generating sacks and turnovers? That is the most critical question. If Drake May operates from a clean pocket and is not disrupted by that Broncos defense, I do not believe Denver has any chance to win this game. None. If May is allowed to be comfortable and do what he does best, the Patriots will control this contest from start to finish. I do not anticipate Drake May will simply hand you gifts. The only turnovers you're likely to get are the ones you forcibly create, stripping the ball when tackling him from behind. Beyond that, I'm not expecting a series of unforced errors. Conversely, I'm also not expecting Jared Stidham to suddenly steal the Patriots' heart and march up and down the field effortlessly. So my entire thesis boils down to this. Can this Broncos team disrupt Drake May, specifically and individually? Can they force him and that offense into the kinds of frustrating, stalling moments that the Patriots experienced against the Chargers and Texans? If the answer is yes, then it is absolutely game on. The contest is wide open. If the answer is no, if they cannot generate that disruption, then it's game over. And in that scenario, a blowout becomes more likely than not. That is the lens through which I am viewing this game. It's as close to a definitive prediction as I am willing to venture. But those are simply my reflections. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think? Do you believe a blowout is imminent? Do you predict, or even guarantee, a lopsided result like some analysts are? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. So, whether you agree with me or vehemently disagree, let's dive into some discussions. Let's engage in some lively debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun with it. Please consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you become a part of it. My goal is to build something we all feel genuinely connected to, something we're truly excited to be involved with. I believe we're well on our way. Also, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.